Hello everyone, welcome to the very first episode of our series dedicated to explain the nature of IFS Cloud Upgrade projects. I have a great occasion to talk to my great colleagues Lars and Östen, who have really deep experience in this area. Guys, please introduce yourself to our listeners.
Yes, hi everyone, I'm Lars Steen. I'm Vice President here at Novacura. I head up our service division, which is currently about 100 consultants and operating in 10 countries.
Hi everybody, my name is Östen Westman and I'm responsible when we sell IFS Cloud and Novacura Flow together to our channel partners in the Nordic market.
Guys, if you could count the number of IFS-related projects that you or Novacura has participated in, how many would you count?
If you're asking me, I keep all my old mails. I think it's 50 plus IFS projects right now.
You mean implementation?
Yeah, since 95, I must say. So I'm an old guy.
Yeah. So this clearly explains your experience, and I don't want to count your emails. Okay, yeah, guys, this is the very first episode of the entire series, and so you should usually start with an introduction, and no surprise, we do it right now. So in this episode, I would like to convince our audience that this is the right time to consider the cloud upgrade for the ERP system. I'm looking at you, Lars, because you have the wider knowledge about the current market trends when we look at the ERP system vendors. Could you quickly describe the situation on the market? Are all the major ERP vendors already in the cloud? How does this look?
Sure, absolutely. So if you take a tour through the different websites of major ERP players currently, today, you will see the cloud word popping up all over. Everyone is talking about cloud. So cloud is message number 1, 2, and 3. Mm-hmm. And it started more than 10 years ago with the likes of Salesforce and NetSuite, solutions built natively for the cloud, in the cloud. Now we see all the major players, SAP, Infor, IFS, Microsoft, everyone is producing cloud solutions. So everyone is going this way, and there are different reasons for it. And there is also different business models and different agreements. So there are bits and pieces for you to, as a customer, to be aware of, but this is the way to go. Everyone is doing it, and so is IFS.
So I need to deepen this topic a bit because so you mentioned several names of these vendors. Is some of these products more experience in the cloud area? I mean, do you know which ERP system started this kind of journey?
Yes, as I said, I mean, quite. Focused systems like Salesforce in the CRM area was obviously first to start the cloud journey. IFS launched the cloud version in 21, so really late actually, a bit good 5 years later than the major competitors actually. And there are pros and cons in that. IFS has the ability to select a good path going forward. Maybe also taking in some of the knowledge that the early adopters might have missed on their journey. Mm-hmm. There are elements in for going multi-tenant, IFS is going single-tenant. There are pros and cons with the different strategies, of course, but in general, cloud is the way software is produced and also the way customer is going to consume it in the future.
You said that it all started with other systems like Salesforce. I think there were systems before, simpler system, definitely simpler than ERP. Why these ERP systems are so late in that journey? You said IFS did that in 2021. There were other vendors who did that before, but not very long before. It was just before IFS. Why are the ERP vendors so late in that journey towards cloud?
It's a good question, Łukasz, and Part of the answer is that the ERP touches so many aspects of the business, and the technology is perfectly fine to be produced in a cloud environment. But then the consumers, the customers will use the same ERP differently for different industries, for different parts of the world, etc. So the consumption of that solution will be different. This means that there will not be exactly the same system presented. If we go into Netflix, you will have the same movie as I will have. We will consume it and see the same picture.
And I'm not very different from you, so I can use the same platform, right? I don't expect differentiators.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if we have two different businesses, you run your business, or I run my business, you operate your business slightly different, in slightly different modes, with different people, in different geographies, etc. That'll make it different. And that difference will sort of make ERP a harder to consume the same way in the cloud.
Because in the cloud, they really need to maintain the same version for everyone, if we consider the multi-tenant concept, right?
Yeah.
And so that it means that they had to generalize the functionalities and capabilities so that the new system, cloud-ready version, could support all the customers around the world in the same, in the same but still individual way. So there is a whole bunch of customizations, much broader customization abilities in the cloud version, right? To support all these different customers, still having the same installation. Yeah, absolutely.
And we, who has worked with ERP for 25 years, we have seen that it's always a balance between modification-free ERP, standard ERP, or going a customer unique way with modifications. So there will be different ways of consuming, different needs.
Of course, yeah.
And also, what we have seen so far is that vendors push out the standard solution, but all customers need to activate that in production, because the vendors are not ready to take responsibility for all the business consequences that a new release might bring.
Yeah.
So that's another aspect of it.
Okay, but it sounds like it was a huge investment for IFS or for all the ERP vendors to prepare this cloud-ready version. So what really motivates them to that step forward?
There are some technical motivations behind it. There are technical aspects to a cloud solution, of course. You have the containerization, which allows scalability. It's also a matter of being able to put all your development money and resources into fewer releases, instead of having a bunch of releases actively in the market. It's much more cost efficient to have few releases. So that's the benefit for the vendors. And of course, that's in the background, that's the technical platform. But what we also clearly see, and it would be quite wrong not to mention that the other big push is, of course, that the software vendors are changing the business model. So when providing cloud, they also provide subscription as a new business model. It's no different from vendor to vendor. I think everyone is going the same way, but there is a shift from the old perpetual world into the subscription world, and that, if they haven't done it before, they will certainly do it when introducing cloud.
Yeah, it's a natural moment to introduce that kind of offering, and
it is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
And it has natural benefits for the company, like the company valuation based on number of subscription and the value of subscription.
Yeah, and it's also some kind of commitment from the customers to the vendor, saying we are staying for 3-5 years with you. That allows the vendor to know what kind of resources, funding they have for future investments.
Yeah, exactly. It somehow stabilizes your company, so you can plan the growth because you have solid base for that. I think there's one more argument worth of mentioning, which is you referred to that a little bit. It's the how many versions you need to maintain in parallel. You said that you mentioned the number of releases you need to prepare for each and every year, which is one of the benefits. You're really limited to maybe 2 per year. But in the past, you also had to maintain all the older versions for a certain number of years, and now you will only have one version that is supported, right?
Ultimately, yes. Some of the vendors that is running a multi-tenant cloud solution have one version of the software. That's it.
I mean, long term, it's the future. It's the only future, I would say. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We mentioned the arguments, the benefits from the ERP vendor perspective, which is interesting, but not the most interesting. What are the benefits from the customer perspective, right?
Yeah. So there are benefits from the customer perspective as well. The big conceptual change is actually to move from a frequency of updating your solution every 5 or every 7 years into an evergreen state where you are closer to the latest software, the latest technology, the latest releases.
Yeah.
And that might be taking small steps every year instead of taking a big step every 5 or 7 years.
More gradual approach, right?
Yeah.
Like continuous improvement, I would say.
Absolutely. Other benefits for the customer could be to get rid of the hardware, to get rid of costly hardware and staff doing something that they are not really experts in, and just outsource that to your vendor, your SaaS operator.
Mm-hmm. How about the performance? I mean, the scalability?
Absolutely. Scalability is one of the talking points of going to cloud. It's often considered to be a benefit for the customer. It would be nice to see the possibilities to scale up, which is there, but also to scale down, which is a bit more harder to get in terms of licenses and number of seats in the solution, etc. But scalability, yes. Also security, I would say. Security started out like something that was sort of an anti-cloud a couple of years ago, where everyone wanted to think that my solution in my care is more safe. But I think the last couple of years actually showed us quite clearly that having your solution with a professional hosting partner is actually safer, and they have a better security setup than you could manage in your own business.
I sometimes compare it to flying versus driving your car. I mean, you feel more secure in your car, but statistics say something different, right?
Yeah, you're right.
It doesn't stop me from being afraid from flying.
No, that's right.
I would like to bring one more thing, which is actually, there are emerging technologies like AI, and it sounds like a buzzword, right? We hear it from very many places. I mean, it's a very popular word nowadays. But we together with the generative AI, we see real implementation areas right now. We observe how much it could, to what extent it could like improve your daily activities, and this will come and ultimately be a solid part of the ERP system capabilities and features. And with that, it will give you the huge market advantage if you benefit from these functionalities. Now, if you got stuck with the old version like IFS 7, for instance, right? You would not be able to benefit from these new technologies that would come, year after another. And I think this evergreen concept is extremely important because we are now in the beginning of this big revolution with AI, right? And you really need to be up to date with your ERP system. You can't get stuck with the previous version, right?
That's right. It's right. You're perfectly right. The cloud vendors like Azure and Amazon today are not only providing hosting capacity. They're also providing things like AI and in integration engines, and facilitates a lot of the orchestration that needs to go around an ERP solution. And that doesn't come from the traditional software vendors. It comes from the hosting expert like Microsoft Azure and Amazon Web Services and others.
I think the openness for integration is another argument. I mean, if you want to choose the best of breed strategy for your IT, so you select the best existing solution to somehow utilize it in the business instead of like taking the whole package from one vendor, then it's much easier for you to achieve this strategy if you have your core system in the cloud, because it's open for integration. It supports this cloud-based technologies for integrations. So it's more natural that you build your IT landscape from these best of breed pieces of solutions, versus if you have it like a local solid ERP core system and then you only use like classical technologies. You can't easily connect it to the best of breeds cloud services, right?
Yes.
So it's another long-term benefit.
It is, and we can clearly see that all players, all ERP vendors state that they have an open API solution, and they are open to communicate with other solutions.
Yeah.
So that's really, really important.
Yeah, it gives also the freedom. You're no longer like locked by the vendor. I mean, of course you are in the core processes, right? And maybe in some areas you'll be more locked. We will talk about it later, probably. But in some areas, you're more open for like new solutions that could be connected to this core. Okay, we are talking, I mean, on the high top level without touching IFS, but there are actually some arguments tightly connected to IFS Cloud that should motivate our customers to upgrade to the IFS Cloud versions. What arguments, what are the benefits of the latest IFS Cloud version, Östen? Maybe.
I think one of the absolute biggest things is that it's actually one single product now. And IFS has been quite active implementing and merging their acquisitions into IFS Cloud. And there's clearly a strategy from IFS to continue that journey. And if you look at how IFS has developed a solution over the last 5-10 years, it's been extremely successful in adding functionality in a smart way. And by that, gaining a very strong position in certain markets as well. I think also the industry depth, the completeness of processes and the broad functionality and the deep functionality in many areas is also very unique. And
doesn't differ from the previous version. I mean, is it that
I think
better?
I think it's getting better and better with each and every version. It has been, I mean, all the way back since the first version back in '95. You can see that it's a proven track record for almost 30 years now. And that means also that for Novacura, when we focus on our industry, we feel very comfortable of introducing our new colleagues, getting them certified in these specific areas, and they get very productive very quickly as well. Yep. There is also a lot of innovation. We mentioned AI, we have machine learning, we have Internet of Things that is actually now also embedded into the technical modules and the technical part of the platform. To be very honest, there are not that many use cases live yet on those capabilities. But we know, I mean, we're working with several industries like mining and service providers where they know that they need to use this in the very near future. And so there's also an important thing. And actually, and also the choice that the customer have. You can use it in the managed cloud or use this remote deployment option as well. And all this together with a huge investment in the user experience as well. I think there you have the core of the benefits of using IFS Cloud. And I often state this when I meet new customers and okay, you can actually implement IFS Cloud. It is actually possible to run the project in a specific time frame and have a go live as planned. And that is a huge advantage when it comes to a complex and big solution.
Mm-hmm. You referred to the new, more flexible and better user interface. I would like to quickly refer to that and maybe go a bit deeper.
Being an old user with IFS for many years, it is a step to actually to reach. You need to get over the threshold and understanding this. But there is definitely a lot of options here, especially the fact that you can use the same screen, the same page on any given device, and you can also tailor that screen through a page editor and actually remove everything that is not necessary for a certain role or for a certain user to actually do their task or their process.
I need to ask a question. Is this setup, this configuration of what should be removed and what should be kept for the entire company, or you can really differentiate it per role, per user
Absolutely
type?
per role, absolutely. So
That's super
we talk
important.
about context here. So
Yeah.
so it's quite easy to define. You have like the sort of standard users, then you have maybe some more advanced or administrative
Yeah.
users, then you have super users. We normally have 3 levels in each and every process area or domain, I would say.
That was, I mean, this overwhelming number of fields that you had on each and every screen in the previous ERP versions. I'm not referring particularly to IFS.
No, it's the
it was
curse
a
of
big downside of
It's
this
the
system,
curse
right?
of the ERP. It's no difference between IFS or other vendors. But I think from our perspective, we with our customer base and our target industries, we feel very comfortable to give the customer a starting point in every project.
Yeah.
And I think there are several options here to get started on a role-based level, which has been developed very smartly in the IFS Cloud version.
Yeah, the ability to customize the user interface per each and every role is one benefit, one important aspect. The other is probably the integration with Microsoft Office, right? It's
I mean, it's been de facto standard for many years now using Microsoft products. So I mean, the integration with BI, for instance, Power BI, the integration with Office, it's all there, and it's a much smoother experience to actually be able to see your appointments in your Office calendar, or to run your report integrated in the navigator of IFS Cloud. So it's all of those.
As a big fan of Microsoft Excel, I should also mention that the Excel integration is also there, right?
Absolutely.
You can download your
can't
data
live without it.
Yeah. That's super important. Yeah, when it comes to other things like, you mentioned that this new package is more organized to support several industries. Did they do something to?
They have prepared a lot of centrals or lobbies where you actually can find the starting point for, I would say, almost any given type of role in these type of industries that IFS is serving. And I think the problem is not the solution. The problem is actually the maturity of us as users to actually start thinking. We've been trained now for many years to use a navigator and stuff like that. Now we have a brand new interface with new capabilities, and it's much easier to focus and highlight what is critical for me right now, today, tomorrow, this week, and to work from that perspective. At some point, it's also perhaps a big thing to actually change that. It's easy to fall into old habits, I believe, trying to recreate the old system with a new interface. So that's a lesson I learned myself. So I need to think a little bit different. But I think absolutely it's a big advantage for the actual productivity of the user to use this type of
these
interface.
lobbies are like dashboards or like desktops where you start your operations, right?
You have different type of graphical objects that you can use. So you choose and you pick and choose, and there's a lot of starting points, a lot of templates available already in IFS Cloud.
And I guess as a user, you could customize it, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, and I also think that you mentioned these templates, they are dedicated to several industries and like several process areas. So the field service technician would see something different than maybe the finance manager or accountant, right?
Absolutely.
And it's pre-built. I mean, you could customize it, but you can.
Yeah, I wouldn't use the word customization because that's a bad word in the ERP world. So we talk, but there's a lot of design options and configurations.
Configure it.
Yeah. And that's to be honest, it could be hard as well if you have 100 lobbies to choose from. Which should I use as the major template? Where should I start?
If I were operating in the mining industry, I wouldn't probably consider the ones dedicated for manufacturing. So in fact, I probably don't need to choose among 100 of them, right?
No.
Probably there is 10 to consider.
But I think one experience is that each and every company is very unique, even though they have exactly the same process or the function. I mean, like financial shared services in a bigger group of companies, there are still different ways to do everything.
Yeah.
And one way of actually having the system accepted by the end user is actually to meet them at least halfway, not to forcing them to totally change their way of thinking, trying to meet them halfway at least in most of the areas. And sometimes also we steal with pride, as we say. We take ideas from different industries and introduce them to other companies because we know this is a good way of working in IFS Cloud.
Yeah. I think that the lobby, when we think about the dashboard that presents several KPIs and shortcuts to the most common features, this is the consequence of the whole really complex configuration that you do in the system and how you run the processes, how you operate in the system. So it should be done at the end. I mean, it's just the consequence of whatever you configured before. So you can't really take a template and believe it's for you.
I mean, if we look at the IFS Cloud now, latest version here, 23R2 coming up right now, we know that, for instance, within the team collaboration within the system has been a lot of new features. Many releases ago already, there's been a lot of multi-company functions that have been introduced. So it's actually possible to have one person serving several companies in the same solution. And that type of collaboration is extremely valuable for the companies and the users. At the same time, it also might lead to new way of organizing your work, setting up your company, your department differently, because you can actually serve multiple areas of your organization through this type of solution with this type of functions. So it's that's why it's so important. I think we will talk about that in later episodes. That's why it's so important to start thinking and planning about this right now.
Yeah, because the ability to configure it properly is like endless. So I mean, and it must be configured for your business. So I mean, you can't avoid that. Yeah, let's talk about it later in some later episodes. I would like to refer to one more thing. I know that IFS largely improved the, I would say, collaboration aspect in the user interface. There's a whole bunch of new capabilities. Could you explain it?
I mean, if you're talking about the design issue, if you're planning a specific service order, you can actually share that information within the system. So by easily adding a link to an email or to a message. So, okay, Lars, could you please look at this service order? I'm thinking right here, should we choose this supplier? Should we choose another supplier? That type of collaboration. Normally, I would say historically, you do a lot of things through email. You spam your colleagues with questions, etc. Here, you can actually keep it in the system, working in the process, and maybe being more efficient that way. At the same point, I think we need to change this. And I think after the pandemic here, the fact that we are actually doing our meetings now in Teams, whether we like it or not, we do it through Teams. That is a type of change that you will see in the ERPs as well. Maybe not just through the interface, but when we're adopting the other capabilities further down the line. So the ERP will be a central piece of that type of work.
So the whole communication around, like, I don't know, this purchase order, if it's correct or not, could happen now in the system, right?
Absolutely.
You can collaborate inside of the
Absolutely.
system. So we have the whole history of the communication and the decision-making processes there, right? You will see it, not in emails, which is a huge benefit, I think. And it's supported by IFS with the new version, right? There are some specific mechanisms.
Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes it's hard to find them. There are bits and pieces coming now with every update, every release.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's actually a big job to keep up with the tempo of the new functions. And it's one thing to be reactive on the changes and, okay, I want to use this now. But it's even smart to become proactive in the process, to actually understand, especially on the more higher level with the bigger business processes, etc. To be able to become proactive in an evergreen situation would be very valuable for a company.
Mm-hmm. I think we could continue for 2 or 12 additional hours, mentioning these new features and capabilities. In this episode, we just want to present the overview, the 10,000 feet perspective. So I will not continue on that. And if we could quickly touch one more thing, I mean, we know, I hope there is a lot of arguments to consider IFS Cloud as your new version and to consider it as the only option for the company, especially for those who currently use the older version of IFS. Now the question is it a good moment to consider that migration, or maybe the customers should wait for a while? I mean, in this series of webinars, we would like to convince the customers that it's doable and it's worth of it. Now, the question is, should they do it right now, or maybe they should wait for a while? What are the arguments to do it right now?
Well, from my perspective, it's I often use an analogy where you say, okay, you on the train station, here comes a train, and it's an older train, a little bit slower, and there's a faster train further down the track coming a little bit later. So if you have that mentality, you will be standing on the platform very long time and waiting. I think it's better to actually get on the train and start working with it. It's more to be part of the development and understand. Yes, there will be issues. There will be things to actually, you will face problem and things that you need to solve, but it's better to be moving forward instead of standing still and waiting. That is one generic sense that I have this last 10, 15 years, actually.
Okay, I think the system is equipped with very many new capabilities and technologies. There are some obvious benefits of having it in the cloud, or at least having it done in the modern technologies that support cloud integration and so on and so on. But how about the risks that could appear? I mean, because it's still pretty new system, pretty new version, how to deal with them? I mean, is the current version stable enough to?
Absolutely. I think we've been involved in 5-6 projects so far, and I think from a error or bug perspective, it's been very manageable. I would say that it's more the administration around the life cycle that has been a little bit challenging from time to time, but yes, that is also matured. And maybe you can touch on that, Lars.
I think customers should view this as an ERP upgrade. It's absolutely a lot of work. It's absolutely something that you need to plan, but it's doable. We will take you through it, and you will get the benefits that we talked about earlier, and you will also take the step of going from the old world with very perhaps old system into a new system, entering into this evergreen state where you are closer to the latest release. So once you planned, once you're ready, then the risks are manageable. We will take you through, and you will have the benefits of everything that is in the new release and in the coming release thereafter.
I think Lars is a perfect explanation on why we are recording these webinars, this series of webinars, because we want to help our customers better understand this whole upgrade process, because planning is the key to success, right? And so and there is, of course, there are some areas where there is some uncertainty, and customers still don't know how to touch this unknown terra incognita, I would say. And we have this experience, right? You mentioned that we took apart. I heard from Klas that we took a part of 10 upgrade projects where we play different roles. Sometimes we are the leading company, sometimes we are only the supporting company. But we participated in 10 upgrade projects. So we have, I would say, wide, broad experience in this domain. And we would like to present all the aspects of these upgrade projects in the further episodes of our webinars. And the conclusion from this introduction should be that if you are well prepared, if you think it through up front, then this process could be under your control and the risks are really limited then, right? It's relatively not that scary process, right?
No, it's not. It's not. So I like to think of it as a traditional ERP project. You need to plan it. You need to have your resources, your key resources. You need to do a lot of testing, etc. So the work is basically the same. But the end station, when you jump on the train, as Östen says, is being in an evergreen state. And you need to prepare your organization for that, because you will take new releases maybe once a year. You will then need to test that. You will need to be more active. You need to know who is in charge of this data, who owns this process, because you will move more frequently in the future. And that is what you need to plan for. Yeah. And we will take care about the technical bits and pieces for the customers, but we cannot take care of the business for the customer. They need to organize that internally.
So guys, I think it's enough for the first episode, for the introduction. Thanks for sharing your experience. That's all for the episode number 1. I hope you liked it. I encourage you to watch the other episodes of our series. We would like to talk more about how the upgrade process looks like. We would like to also present you the challenges that you might face when you do your own upgrade. And at the end of the entire series, we are going to present you some practical tips on how to plan the entire IFS Cloud Upgrade project. So please share this material with your colleagues and others who are interested in IFS Cloud Upgrade project. Thank you for watching.